The moment I stepped through the doors of the Vale mansion, I knew I had been invited there to be punished. Not welcomed, punished. The lights were too bright. The music was too soft. The servants moved like they had been warned not to look at me. Even the air felt cold, like the house had forgotten my mother's warmth. I held the gift box and walked toward the dining hall. It was Grandpa's birthday, and for years he had been the only person in this family who still called me by my name, not failure, not mistake, Ethan. Before I reached the hall, laughter rolled out like thunder. My father's laugh was the loudest. I had not heard that sound in years. I stopped at the doorway. Then I saw him. Lucas Reed sat in my seat. My seat was beside Grandpa's empty chair, the chair my mother said belonged to the first grandson of the Vale family. But Lucas leaned back in it like a king, his silver suit shining under the chandelier. Around his wrist was Grandpa's old gold watch. My fingers tightened around the gift box. That watch was not just gold. It was the last thing Grandpa had worn before his stroke. He had once placed it in my palm and said, "One day, when you are ready, this will remind you that real blood is proven by loyalty, not noise." Lucas noticed me first. His smile grew slow and sharp. Oh, the quiet son finally came. Heads turned. My stepmother, Vanessa, lifted her glass with a smile that never reached her eyes. "Ethan, dear, we thought you had chosen not to embarrass us tonight." A few relatives laughed. I swallowed the heat in my chest and looked at my father, Richard Vale. He stood near the fireplace, tall, proud, and cold. For 1 second, and I waited for him to correct her. He did not. Instead, his eyes dropped to my cheap coat. "You are late." "I came as soon as I could," I said. "Traffic was bad." Lucas clicked his tongue. "Traffic? Or were you deciding whether this house still fits your level?" More laughter. I ignored him. "Where is Grandpa?" Father's face tightened. "Resting. Doctor said people would tire him." "Then why is everyone here?" The room went quiet. Vanessa placed one hand over her chest. "Because this family still has duties, Ethan. Your grandfather would want us to celebrate strength, not weakness." Her eyes moved to Lucas. My stomach sank. I walked closer. "Why is Lucas wearing Grandpa's watch?" Lucas lifted his wrist under the light. "Looks good on me, doesn't it?" "That watch is not yours." Father slammed his glass onto the table. "Enough." I turned to him. "He should take it off. He will do no such thing." The words hit harder than a slap. Lucas stood, still smiling. "Your father gave it to me." I stared at my father. "You gave him Grandpa's watch?" Father's jaw moved. "Lucas has shown more promise in 6 months than you showed in your whole life." Something inside me cracked. "That watch belongs to family," I said. Father stepped closer. "Exactly." The room became so silent I could hear the candle flames shaking. I looked around. Aunt Marla looked down. Uncle Peter took a drink. My cousins avoided my eyes. Not one person spoke. Lucas came beside my father and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Don't worry, Ethan," Lucas said softly, loud enough for everyone to hear. "There is always space for a failed son at the back." Vanessa smiled. That I wanted to throw the gift box at his face. I wanted to shout that he was a stranger my stepmother brought into our house because she needed a puppet. I wanted to ask my father how he could replace his blood with a man who learned our history from gossip. But then I saw my mother's portrait above the stairs. She was smiling in that painting, gentle, proud, alive in the only way this house allowed her to be. So I stayed silent. Father took that silence as weakness. He turned to the guests and raised his voice. "Tonight, our family begins a new chapter. I have made my decision." Lucas lowered his head.
pretending to be humble. Father placed a hand on his back. Lucas Reed will be declared the future heir of the Vale family tonight. My gift box slipped from my hand, and this time everyone heard it fall.
But the sound of the gift box hitting the floor seemed small, but every eye in the hall turned toward it. The blue ribbon had come loose, the wooden box had cracked open. Inside was the old fountain pen Grandpa once used to sign his first business contract. I had spent months finding it at an auction because I wanted to give him back a piece of his beginning. Lucas looked at it, then laughed. "A pen?" he said. "How sweet." The poor son brought a museum gift. My father did not even look at the box. He kept his hand on Lucas's shoulder like he was presenting a prince. "Tonight is not about objects," Father said. "It is about the future." I bent down and picked up the pen. My hands were steady, but my chest felt like someone had closed a fist around my lungs. "The future?" I asked.
Or the lie you want everyone to clap for?" A sharp breath moved through the room. Vanessa stepped forward. "Richard, please, he is emotional. You know how Ethan becomes when attention is not on him." I almost laughed. Attention? I had spent my life being invisible in that house. Father's eyes turned hard. "Careful." Lucas raised both hands, pretending to be peaceful. "No, let him speak. Tonight must be painful for him. I understand." "You understand nothing," I said. His smile did not move, but his eyes darkened. "Then teach me, cousin." "I am not your cousin." The words left my mouth before I could stop them. The guests whispered. Cameras lifted higher. Business partners leaned toward one another like they smelled blood. Lucas touched the gold watch on his wrist. "Family is not only blood, Ethan."
"Oh, your father taught me that." Father nodded. "And loyalty matters more than birth." "Then why did you forget mine?" I asked. For 1 second his face changed, not guilt, anger. He turned to the head servant. "Bring the papers." My stomach dropped. "What papers?" Vanessa smiled again, soft and cruel. "A simple family document, nothing a man with honor should fear." A servant came in carrying a black folder. My father took it and threw it on the table. The folder slid across the wood and stopped in front of me. "Sign it," he said. I did not touch it. "What is it?" "Your formal withdrawal from all future claims connected to Vale Group and the family estate." The room went still. I opened the folder. My eyes moved over the first page, then the second, then the third. My throat tightened.
This includes my mother's shares." Father looked away. That was the answer. My voice dropped. Those shares were hers. They became part of the family structure after her death. "No," I said. "She left them under my protection." Lucas sighed as if he was bored. "Protection? You could not even protect your own place at dinner." I looked at him. "And you could not even steal a seat without wearing a dead man's watch." His smile disappeared. Vanessa gasped. "How dare you speak about your grandfather like that?" "I am speaking about the man using him." Father slapped the table so hard the glasses shook. "Enough!" The old fear rose in me, the same fear I felt as a boy when his voice filled a room and made everyone smaller. But this time I did not step back. He pointed at the papers. "You will sign tonight."
"And you will stop blocking this family's growth." Lucas has vision. He has discipline. He has respect from people who matter. "And what do I have?" I asked quietly. Father's eyes were cold. "A habit of disappointing everyone." The words landed deep, but I refused to bleed in front of them. Nora, my cousin, stood near the wall with wet eyes. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Lucas saw her weakness and smiled. "Uncle Richard," he said, Maybe we should not force him. Let him leave with dignity. Then he leaned closer to me and whispered, "Unless he wants to be dragged out like a beggar." I looked at the pen in my hand. Grandpa's pen. My mother's memory. My stolen place. Then I placed the pen on top of the papers. "No," I said. Father's face turned red. "What did you say?" I said no. Lucas laughed.
And then maybe security should help him understand. Father did not stop him. 2 guards moved toward me, and for the first time that night, I smiled. The guards stopped in front of me, but neither of them touched me at first. They knew me. One was Harris, the same man who used to open the gate for my mother when she came home from charity events. The other was Cole, who once taught me how to ride a bicycle in the back garden because my father said he was too busy. Now both men stood with shame in their eyes, waiting for an order. My father gave it without blinking. "Remove him." Harris swallowed. "Sir?" Father turned his head slowly. "Did I ask for your opinion?" Harris looked down. "No, sir." Lucas smiled like he had been waiting his whole life for this moment. "Be gentle."
"Oh, we do not want him crying in front of the guests." A few people laughed, but it sounded nervous now. Maybe because I was still smiling. Maybe because I was not begging. Cole grabbed my left arm. Harris took my right. Their hands were firm but not cruel. I looked at my father. "Is this really how you want Grandpa's birthday remembered?" His face hardened. "Your grandfather is not here to protect your weakness tonight." "He protected truth," I said. Vanessa stepped beside him. "No, Ethan, he protected you too long. That is why you became this way." "This way?" I asked. "Bitter," she said, "ungrateful, empty." Lucas moved closer and lowered his voice. "Forgotten." That word hit harder than the others. Forgotten. I had been forgotten at family dinners, forgotten in school awards, and forgotten when my mother died, and I stood beside her grave, waiting for my father to put one hand on my shoulder. He never did. The guards started pulling me toward the hall doors. Nora suddenly stepped forward. "Uncle Richard, please, this is too much." Vanessa's eyes snapped to her. "Nora, stay out of adult matters." "He is family," Nora whispered. Lucas laughed. "Family does not mean useful." I stopped walking. The guards stopped too. I turned my head just enough to look at Lucas. "You should remember those words." His smile shook for half a second. Only half. Then my father walked toward me. His shoes clicked against the marble floor, slow and heavy. He stopped close enough that I could smell the wine on his breath. "You think silence makes you strong," he said. "It does not."
"Oh, it makes you small." I looked straight into his eyes. "No, it makes me patient." His jaw tightened. Then his gaze dropped to my right hand. My mother's ring was there, a simple silver ring with a small blue stone. She had given it to me 2 weeks before she died. She said, "When this house gets cold, hold this and remember you still belong to yourself." Father pointed at it. "Take that off." My blood went cold. No. That ring belongs to the Vale estate. It belonged to my mother, and she belonged to this family. For the first time that night, my voice rose. She was not property. The room went dead silent. Father's face changed from anger to something darker. "Remove it." Harris froze. "Sir, please." "Remove it." Cole's grip tightened, but he did not move. So Lucas stepped forward. He reached for my hand himself.
At the second his fingers touched my mother's ring, I pulled back so hard the guards almost lost balance. "Touch it again," I said, "and you will regret it." Lucas stared at me. For once, he did not laugh. Father stepped closer and whispered, "You have nothing, Ethan. No money. No power, no place here. Stop acting like the world is waiting for you. I looked at every face in that room, the relatives, the guests, the people who ate from my mother's kindness and now watched her son be thrown out. Then I said, "The world is not waiting for me." I looked at Lucas. "It is waiting for you to make one more mistake." Before anyone could answer, the guards dragged me through the doors. The cold night swallowed me. Rain fell hard over the front steps. My bag was thrown beside me. The mansion doors closed behind me like a final sentence. And for a moment, I stood there alone, soaked and shaking. Then my phone vibrated. A message lit the screen. Maya Chen. "Master, I landed. Say one word and I will come." I looked back at the mansion. Then I typed, "Not yet." I walked until the mansion lights became small behind the rain. My hotel room was on the edge of the city, above a closed bakery and across from a bus stop. The carpet smelled old. The heater clicked like it was tired. But for the first time that night, no one was laughing at me. I placed my wet bag on the chair and took out my mother's ring. My fingers were shaking now, not from cold, from everything I had forced myself not to feel. My father's words kept coming back. "You have nothing." I sat on the bed and almost believed him. Then my phone lit up again. Maya Chen. "Master, where are you?" I stared at the word master for a long time. To anyone else it would have sounded strange, maybe even foolish, but Maya had called me that since the night we first survived together. 5 years ago I was not a hero. I was just a 21-year-old business student who spent more time in the city library than in my own home. My father had stopped paying for my extra classes, saying, "Why invest in a son who brings no return?" So I taught myself markets, contracts, human behavior, negotiation, everything the Vale family thought I was too weak to understand. One rainy night I found a young woman crying beside the library printer. Papers were scattered around her feet. Her eyes were red, but her back was straight, like she refused to break, even when the world had already hit her. I picked up one paper, Chen Global Textiles, or emergency debt proposal. "You should not sign this," I told her. She looked up fast. "Excuse me?" "This clause here." I pointed at the page. "If you miss one payment, they take voting control of your company. This is not a loan. It is a trap." Her face went pale. She grabbed the papers from me. "Who are you?" "Someone who reads before bleeding." She stared at me for 3 seconds, then whispered, "Can you fix it?" I should have walked away. That was what my family had taught me. Never help people unless they can help you first. But my mother had taught me different. So I sat beside Maya Chen in that empty library and rewrote the deal with her until sunrise. I showed her which investors were circling her company. I taught her how to answer without sounding desperate. I gave her a plan that could turn her weakest factory into her strongest weapon. When the sun came up, she looked at me like I had pulled her out of deep water. "What do I owe you?" she asked. "Nothing." "No one helps for nothing." "My mother did," I said. That was the first time she smiled. A week later, she called me. The trap had failed. Her company survived. Then she called again. And again. Soon we were meeting in quiet cafes, old offices, empty conference rooms. I helped her read contracts. She helped me remember I was not useless. One night, after we stopped a takeover that would have destroyed her family company, she bowed her head and said, "You are my master now." I laughed. "Do not say that. It sounds insane." She looked serious. "Then I will say it only when it matters." Years passed. Maya grew stronger. Chen Global became one of the biggest companies in the world. Reporters called her a genius. Investors feared her. Governments invited her. And I stayed hidden. Not because I was ashamed, because I wanted to build something that was mine, without using someone else's crown. My phone rang. I answered. Maya. Her voice was calm, but I could hear the anger under it. Tell me they did not touch you. They tried. A pause. Master? I am fine. No, you are controlled. There is a difference. I looked out the window at the rain. Lucas is being named heir. I know. My eyes narrowed. How? Because Vale Group announced a partnership with Chen Global 10 minutes ago. I stood up. What? They used my name, she said. They told investors I personally support Lucas Reed. My hand tightened around the phone. Lucas had made his mistake. Maya's voice dropped. Should I crush them now? I closed my eyes and saw my father's face, Vanessa's smile, Lucas touching my mother's ring. Not yet, I said. Then when? I looked at my reflection in the dark window. Let them invite the whole world first. Then the line went silent. The next evening, the Vale mansion looked like it had never thrown me out. Golden lights covered the windows. Black cars lined the driveway. Reporters stood near the gate, waiting for rich people to smile and lie. Inside, music floated through the open doors, soft and proud, like the house itself was celebrating my replacement. I stood across the street in a black suit. My coat was cheap, my shoes were old, but my eyes were different. Last night I had left as the rejected son. Tonight I returned as the truth. A guard at the gate saw me and stiffened. Mr. Ethan, I was told you were not on the list. I know. I cannot let you in. A quiet voice came from behind him. He is with me. Nora stepped out from the side path. She wore a pale dress, but her face looked tired and guilty. The guard looked nervous. Miss Nora, your aunt said... I know what Aunt Vanessa said, Nora cut in. Open the gate. He hesitated, then stepped aside. Nora led me through the garden instead of the front entrance. For a while, neither of us spoke. The fountain water covered our footsteps. At last, she whispered, I should have stopped them. You tried. I whispered, that is not trying. I looked at her. Fear makes people small, Nora. Cruelty makes them proud. You were afraid. They were proud. Her eyes filled with tears. Well, why did you come back? I looked toward the ballroom windows where Lucas was laughing under camera flashes. Because pride needs an audience before it falls. Inside the banquet hall, the whole city seemed to be watching. Investors, family friends, reporters, old relatives who had ignored me for years. They all stood around Lucas like he was a miracle. He wore Grandpa's gold watch again. My hand closed into a fist. Father stood beside him, smiling the way he never smiled at me. Vanessa clung to his arm, glowing with victory. Lucas lifted a glass and spoke into the microphone. Tonight is not only about my place in the Vale family, he said. It is about the future. Vale Group is entering a new age with support from Chen Global and its CEO, Maya Chen. The room burst into applause. I stayed near the back, a half hidden behind a pillar. Lucas continued, Miss Chen believes in strong leadership, she believes in vision, and she believes in me. A laugh almost escaped me. Nora looked at me in panic. Is that true? No. Then why is he saying it? Because liars think the world ends at the walls they control. Across the hall, Vanessa spotted me. Her smile vanished. She crossed the room fast. What are you doing here? Listening? You were removed from this family event. I remember. Then leave before you embarrass yourself again. I looked past her at Lucas, who was shaking hands with investors like he owned their future. You should worry about your own embarrassment. Her eyes narrowed. Still acting mysterious? You have no power here? That is what you said last night. And it is still true. Father noticed us. His face darkened, and he walked over with Lucas beside him. Lucas smiled for the cameras, but his voice was low. You really came back? I thought the rain washed away your last bit of pride. I looked at the watch on his wrist. Still wearing things that do not belong to you? His jaw tightened. Father stepped between us. You will leave now. No. His eyes widened. Do not test me in front of my guests. I looked around the hall. Your guests are exactly why I came. Vanessa hissed. Security! 2 guards moved. Then I raised one hand. Wait, I said. Let the guest of honor arrive first. Lucas laughed. The guest of honor is already here. The main doors opened. The music stopped. A woman in a white suit walked in. Cameras turned. Investors froze. Even the servants stopped breathing. Chen had arrived. And Lucas rushed forward with a perfect smile. Miss Chen, welcome. We are honored. She walked past him. His hand stayed in the air. Maya crossed the hall without looking at anyone else. Her eyes found mine. Then in front of my father, Vanessa, Lucas, and the reporters, Chen lowered herself to one knee. Master, she said, I am sorry I am late. Father's glass slipped and shattered. Vanessa screamed. Lucas turned white, and my father whispered, Master? Maya's words did not just silence the room, they broke it. Nobody moved. The reporters held their cameras in the air. The investors stared with open mouths. Even Lucas looked like his body had forgotten how to breathe. Then my father took one step forward. Miss Chen, he said, his voice shaking. There must be some mistake. Maya rose from one knee and stood beside me like that was the only place she belonged. No mistake, Mr. Vale, she said. I know exactly who I bowed to. Lucas forced out a laugh. This is a joke, right? Ethan helped you years ago and now you are being dramatic for the cameras. Maya finally turned her eyes to him. Lucas stopped laughing. There is nothing small about saving a company from death, she said, and there is nothing dramatic about respect. Whispers spread across the hall like fire. My father looked at me. He seemed unsure how tall I really was. Ethan, he said slowly, what is she talking about? I looked at Lucas's wrist. Maybe your new heir should explain first. Lucas hid the watch behind his cuff. I have nothing to explain. Maya lifted one finger. A man from her legal team walked forward with a black case. He opened it on the glass table near the stage. Inside were files, emails, contracts, and a tablet showing records. Maya's voice stayed calm. Lucas Reed contacted several investors this week using forged letters. He claimed Chen Global had agreed to a private partnership with Vale Group. Father's face lost color. Forged? Lucas snapped. No, that is not true. Maya tapped the tablet. A large screen behind the stage lit up. Everyone saw the same email Lucas had sent under a fake executive address. The words were clear. Chen Global fully supports Lucas Reed as the future leader of Vale Group. A reporter gasped. Lucas pointed at the screen. Anyone could make that. Maya nodded. Correct. That is why we traced the source. Another file appeared. IP logs, payment records. A digital signature purchase. Lucas's name. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Lucas! He pulled away. Do not look at me like that. This is a setup. I stepped closer. A setup needs a liar to walk into it. His eyes burned. You did this? No, I said. You did. I only stopped saving you from yourself. My father turned on him. Tell me this is false. Lucas looked around. The cameras were still recording. The investors were no longer smiling. The family members who had laughed at me now stared at him like he was poison. He swallowed. Uncle Richard,
I did it for the family. I needed them to believe we were strong. Once I became heir, I could have made it real. Maya's smile was cold. You cannot build truth on a stolen name. Vanessa stepped forward. Miss Chen, please. This is a private family misunderstanding. Ethan is angry.
He's using you. Maya's eyes turned sharp. No, Mrs. Vale, your family used him. I simply arrived with receipts. Then Maya placed one final document on the table. My father stared at it. What is that? The ownership record your lawyers tried to bury, Maya said. Ethan's mother left shares under a protected trust. They could not be moved, sold, or transferred without Ethan's approval. My father grabbed the paper with shaking hands. I watched his face change as he read. Confusion, fear, then regret. Vanessa whispered, Richard? He did not answer her. I spoke quietly. You asked me to sign away what you never owned. The words hit him harder than any shout could have. Lucas suddenly backed toward the side exit. 2 police officers stepped through the door before he reached it. His face twisted. You called police? Maya said. All fraud is not a family argument. The officers took his arms. Grandpa's gold watch flashed under the lights. I walked to him and held out my hand. That watch, I said. Lucas looked ready to spit in my face, but one officer removed it and placed it in my palm. The metal felt warm from his skin, and that made me hate it. Then I closed my fingers around it. Lucas screamed as they pulled him away. You were nothing, you hear me? Nothing! I looked at my father, then at Vanessa, then at every person who had watched me fall. No, I said. I was the son you erased. I lifted the watch. And now everyone remembers. Lucas's scream followed him to the doors. You were nothing, nothing. The police dragged him through the banquet hall while every camera recorded his fall. Last night, he had sat in my chair, wearing my grandfather's watch, smiling like he had stolen my life forever. Now he could not even keep his hands free. No one clapped, no one spoke. The room was too stunned to pretend any more. I stood in the center of the hall with Grandpa's watch in my palm. The gold felt heavier than it should have, maybe because it carried years of silence. Maya stepped beside me. Do you want me to clear the room? I looked at the investors, reporters, relatives, and servants watching from the walls. No, I said, let them stay. They stayed when I was humiliated. They can stay while the truth breathes. My father flinched. Richard Vale looked small, not poor, not weak, just smaller than the name he had protected. Vanessa grabbed his sleeve. Richard, say something. Tell them this is not over. He did not look at her. His eyes stayed on the watch in my hand. Ethan, he said quietly. I waited. He took one step toward me, then stopped. I did not know, he whispered. The old me would have accepted that. The old me would have grabbed those words like food after starving for years. But the man I had become only looked at him. You did not ask. His face tightened. I thought Lucas was capable, he said. I thought he had strength. You confused confidence with character. Maya's legal team spoke with the police. Reporters rushed to send breaking news. Investors whispered into phones. Vanessa turned to me. Her makeup had begun to run. Ethan, please, you must stop this. Think of the family name. I almost smiled. The family name? I asked. You use that name like a knife. She stepped closer. I made mistakes. We all did. But scandals destroy families. No, I said.
Lies destroy families. Scandals only show the body. Her lips trembled, but her eyes were not sorry. They were scared. That was different. Nora came from the corner, crying softly. Ethan, I am sorry. Vanessa snapped. Do not apologize to him in front of these people. Nora turned on her. These people watched him get thrown out. Maybe they should watch someone treat him like family. The room went quiet again. I looked at Nora. She was shaking, but she did not step back. I should have spoken louder, she said. I was afraid of Aunt Vanessa. I was afraid of Uncle Richard. But you were alone, and I let fear choose for me. I felt something in my chest loosen. You tried, I said. Not enough. No, I answered. But you are trying now? She wiped her face and nodded. My father looked at her, then at me.
As if he finally understood that silence had protected the wrong people. He took another step. Ethan, come home. The words hit the room harder than Lucas's arrest. I looked toward the staircase where my mother's portrait watched over us. For years I had wanted to hear those words, come home, not as a guest, not as a burden, as a son. My throat tightened. Father reached out. We can fix this. You can take your place. I will announce you as the true heir. I stared at his hand. Last night, that same hand had pointed at the guards. That same voice had ordered them to take my mother's ring. I placed Grandpa's watch on the table between us. You still think this is about a title, I said. His hand dropped. Then what do you want? He asked. I looked at the broken gift box, the cameras, the scared investors, eyes in the family that only saw me after power entered the room. I want my mother's shares returned under my control. I want Lucas removed from every company record. I want Vanessa out of any board position she touched. And I want you to step down until an investigation is complete. Vanessa gasped. You cannot do that. I looked at her. I already did. Maya handed my father the prepared documents. His hands shook as he took them. Ethan, he whispered, are you punishing me? I looked into his eyes. No, I said. I am protecting what my mother built. Then I picked up the watch, and I am protecting myself from the family that forgot how. 3 months later, the Vale mansion no longer looked like a palace. It looked like a museum of mistakes. The golden gates were still there. The marble lions still guarded the driveway, and the chandeliers still burned over polished floors. But the laughter was gone. The fake smiles were gone. The proud voices that once filled those halls became whispers. Lucas Reed's face had been on every business page. Fraud, forgery, false partnership claims. The man they called the future heir could not save his own name. Vanessa disappeared from the board first. She tried to fight the order. She cried. She called reporters. She said I had destroyed a mother's place in the family. But the documents were clean. Her signatures were everywhere they should not have been. My father stepped down next. That was the hardest headline for the city to believe. Richard Vale, the Iron Man of the family, removed from leadership while investigators reviewed hidden records. He did not fight it. Maybe he was too tired. Or maybe he had finally learned that pride becomes heavy when no one is left to carry it. I moved my office to the top floor of Vale Group, not because I wanted his chair, but because my mother's foundation needed protection. Her name had been buried and almost stolen. I would not let that happen again. Nora worked 2 floors below me. She did not ask for power. She asked for a chance. So I gave her the hardest job, rebuilding trust with workers Lucas had ignored. One afternoon, she came to my office holding reports. The factory staff voted, she said. For what? To keep your mother's scholarship fund open. I looked up. Nora smiled through tired eyes. They said Mrs. Vale paid school fees for their children when no one was watching. My throat tightened. That was my mother. Quiet kindness, no cameras, no speeches. I'd just help. Then we expand it, I said. Nora blinked. Expand? Every factory, every branch. If my mother built light in dark places, we do not keep it small. For the first time since the banquet, Nora smiled. You sound like her, she said. I looked at the silver ring on my hand. I hope so. That evening, Maya visited my office. No cameras, no legal team, no white suit of war, just Maya with coffee in both hands and the same sharp eyes from the library. You are avoiding celebration, she said, placing a cup on my desk. I am working. That is what people say when they are hiding from peace. I leaned back. Peace feels strange. It always does after survival. We watched the city turn orange. Do you regret it? She asked, taking control. No, not destroying them completely. I thought of Vanessa's fear. Lucas's screams, my father's shaking hands. Then I thought of the boy I used to be, standing outside rooms, waiting to be chosen. No, I said, revenge burns fast. I wanted justice to last. Maya smiled. That is why I still call you master. A knock came at the door. My assistant entered carefully. Mr. Vale, your father is here. The room became colder. Maya looked at me. Do you want me to stay? No, I said. This one is mine. My father entered without his usual power. His suit was plain. His hair looked whiter. For the first time, he seemed unsure where to stand. Ethan, he said. Richard. Pain crossed his face when I used his name instead of Dad. He accepted it. I saw the foundation announcement, he said. Your mother would be proud. She would have protected it sooner. He lowered his eyes.
Yes. Silence stretched between us. Then he said the words I had once needed more than air. Can you ever call me Dad again? For a second, I was 10 years old again, waiting beside my mother's grave, hoping he would hold my shoulder. But memory is not a chain unless we let it be. I looked at him and spoke gently. A father protects his son before the world kneels to him. You waited until after? His eyes filled, but he did not argue. I opened the door. He nodded once and left. I returned to my desk and placed Grandpa's watch beside my mother's ring. Outside, the sun rose over the city, and I finally understood. I never needed their name to become worthy. They needed my silence to feel powerful, and now my silence was over.